Welcome to the NOFC podcast, ladies and gentlemen, episode 33, which is Wounded Not Finished. It's going to be the Richard Maddson story, who we have right here. Richard Maddog Mattson, apparently. Everybody's calling you Mad Dog, which that's one of the first questions I want to get to. I don't want to ruin anything. But first and foremost, where does Mad Dog come from? Because I know I've heard it before. I just didn't put two and two together to figure out where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a take on my last name. I mean, I grew up and I was into, European football. And then, so I was playing soccer. I started late, like at 13. I was scoring goals like a madman, and then somebody got hurt. It was a goalie, so they put me in at like 13. And I took to it. It was a great position. I took to it and I did everything. So I remember one day in high school, we were practicing. We had some top people. And the coach made something like, if we score 5 goals, practice will end early. So I made a joke. I looked down and, we're talking to Wappinger Falls, New York, this like Ketchum High School. There was a dead mouse, like right behind the goal. So I sort of hung it up on the goal, like wrapped it around its little tail. And I was like, whoever scores a goal knocks the mouse down. I'll eat this thing. I'll eat this thing. And I was just like, so everybody was enraged. They were trying to score, and no one scored. And then somebody was like, "You need to eat that anyway." And and then it was just like somebody yelled out "Mad Dog," and it just took. And I mean, I'm like 14 at the time, and I've had that since I was 14, just because I would do like I just did this little crazy stunt. I never ended up eating a rat, but it was
Yeah.
it was the whole. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the myth behind the legend. But
Yeah.
it
I get
took,
it.
and then of course, then it just ran with it, and then I played. I was in D1 in college, and afterwards I played a little bit, semi-pro, and then soccer was sort of done in America. And then I went back and played in the A-League for a year or two before joining the state police, and the name just stuck with it because, I mean, I had a, intensity for training and doing crazy stuff, and always just keeping everything lighthearted and joking, but, keeping the intensity up. So that's the whole main moniker where that all came from.
So that's a pretty cool story. You grew up in Wappinger Falls.
Yes, I did.
Family? What do you have brothers,
Yeah,
sisters?
so I still mom and dad, shout out to my pops. He just had his valve heart placed. He had some valve
Jeez.
surgery done on Monday. So and he's walking around doing his thing. So
Good.
he's resting at home. So my mother, father, and I have an older sister, Teresa. So
Okay.
they all still live up in that area right there in Wappingers, Dutchess County, and I'm the only nomad traveling down here to Sweet Home, Alabama.
So Alabama. Before I want to get into what brought you to Alabama, I'm kind of interested in that. But before I do, like, walk me through your childhood and what got you into the. Did you always want to become a police officer, specifically state police? And what got you into that? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I growing up, I had a good childhood growing up. I was playing. Don't worry, my dogs are barking in the back. I grew up and, like I said, middle class, typical middle class. My mother was a nurse, father works for IBM. And I think it was just like as you grow older, we interact. And I think back then police had a great attitude, and I remember I would spend my summers visiting my grandparents with my father in like Philly. And my mother's from South Boston, my father's from like South Philly. So some great neighborhoods. So you would end up in these neighborhoods. And of course, you would be out with the kids. And here I am, like 6, 7 years old, and you'd see the cops. And I remember I think it was in Philadelphia or down by Schuylkill River. I had to be like 7 or 8. And kids were playing in the park, and they were older kids. I'd probably be like teenagers, probably. They're getting in a scuffle. They're playing basketball. And I remember there was this 2 cops just walking in this park. Big, uh, looked like 2 Irish cops from Philadelphia. I mean, gigantic. And they were like looking over, and these kids are swearing. They're like, "Hey, watch your mouths," Back then, people were like, "Oh, okay," you got these
Yep.
goons.
Yep.
Then it didn't stop, so they kept on going. And I watched this one officer who's like, I don't know how many times I got to tell you. He walks over, and I'll never forget. He pulls out and he pops it. And I was like, wow, that blade just popped up. Unbeknownst to me at 7 years old, that's a switchblade. So you're thinking about Philadelphia cop carrying a switchblade on his leg. He pops it, goes over, pops the basketball, goes, you don't know how to act? Now no one's playing in the park. And I was like, bink. I want to do something like that, right? I want to be that guy years from now. But it was the greatest thing. So everybody was like, oh man, cleared the park. Everybody went on their merry way. Family still having picnics. Nobody blinking an eye. Guy with a switchblade. I was like, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
then as you grow up, you get into it. You follow it. And for me, you would see a lot of troopers in the area. And I remember when I graduated high school, I had like this heavy metal band playing at my parents' house, blasting music. And I figured it'd be like, 20, 40 people at the most, something like 200 something people showed up. There's beer cans all over the street. I remember two troopers show up and they're just like, listen, here's the deal. He goes, this all better be cleaned up. And he goes, no more music after 12. And it was like 10 minutes left. So band leaves. He goes, I need everybody cleared up by 12:15. So everybody pretty much left. And then the streets just littered with beer cans, beer bottles. So I'm out there with a couple goons. So we're just cleaning them all up. And I think back then that was like right when that you could, I don't know if it was the nickel trading. Maybe it was. I forget when that started. But I remember my sister was like, oh, you can get money for this. So we had to clean up my whole little neighborhood over there. And it was like almost a full mile around circumference. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I did that till like 2 a.m. But I'll never forget. They were the coolest guys. They were like, listen, no, you guys haven't. But I think, that's the policing we all knew and grew up. And you were like,
Yeah.
wow, they interacted with the community well, even the cops in Philly, right? You told them once, told them twice, then you popped the ball and said, piss off, right? And it was a great way. And I had grown up too. I remember we would do some shenanigans and cops would show up, or the state police or the sheriffs, and they'd just be like, you know better, right? And you're like, you're right, I do. And plus then they would know, they would just take your name. And, the worst thing is them to call your parents, right?
Exactly.
Because the last thing your parents are going to be like, I'm sorry, why are the cops calling here?
Yep.
Right.
They didn't want to deal with that.
Yeah, because middle class families were up and coming. They had this, everybody wanted that little community mindset, and they wanted to protect. And if you're doing something stupid, you got to take a beating much more than what the cops can do to you.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
So I mean, it was that. That was the idea of good policing.
So then, is it? I have to be New York State Police, or did you just want to get into policing in general? Did you take any other tests?
I took. See, there was a hiring freeze for the state police. I think I want to say it was like. So before that, so then the worst part is for me to get on the job, and then I become a bouncer, right? Because I'm bouncing at nightclubs. Probably not the ideal work to get into the police department, but I mean, there was a hiring freeze for many years on the state police, and I remember I took the test. And I scored very well on it. I didn't hear from them at all. And it was probably like 95. So there was a hiring freeze, and they mentioned it when we took the test. So I went out and took tests. I mean, I was going all over. I had friends. I was down. I took the test in the state police in Vermont. I know city of Poughkeepsie, of course, city of New York. I did some just went anywhere. Jersey, I'm taking their test, and it was crazy. And I remember at the time I was playing for, the A-League and pro soccer in America in Long Island where I was living. And I got a call from the state police, and they're just like, I'm like, hey, we have your paperwork here. You should have been here like a year ago. And I'm like, and how is that my fault? Like that they were like asking, and they're like, well, paperwork, everything. They're like, anyway, do you still want to be here? And I was like, sure, I would love that. So they fast tracked me. All I had to went up one weekend, did the, fitness, psychological test, and then, they signed me the investigator, and they really fast tracked it like I was going. And I was like, wow. And I did everything. And I remember I had this arrest when I was 18. I was like in college, and somebody was like picking on some kid, and they were beating up some kid. So I jumped in. I didn't really swing. I sort of just shoved these kids out of the way to help this little kid. I was in college, and it turned out it was like, and it did hit one kid. I guess his father was like the mayor of all places, Garden City, Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Where I went to school at Adelphi. So what was going to happen. So then,
yep.
I'm like on my way to practice. Nassau County shows up. They arrest me. The dorm room put together $100 for bail. I'll never forget it. People are giving me like $2, and then like one of my soccer captain bailed me out. It was the most funniest story. And then then you're like, fuck, there goes my chances, this and that. And then you go to
Yep.
court, and they're just like, youthful, don't do anything for 3 months. You understand? Bump, bump, and it was done. And I was like, okay. And then they would, of course, youthful offender, they're supposedly bury it, right? So when I joined the state police, the investigators like, any arrest? And I said, yeah, got arrested. And so they go to check it. And they call me up and they're like, you sure you got arrested? We don't have any record of you. Are you just saying this? I go, no, it's our record. They're like, well, we can't proceed with your paperwork until we find this. So I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, well, go to the precinct where you got arrested. So I go in there, of course, now it's literally been probably 11, 12 years since I've been arrested.
Yeah.
And the desk sergeant's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no. So he sends me downstairs to go sit in here until you find it. And it turns out my arrest number was used 3 or 4 times since I was arrested. So I'm like, here's the number. And they're like, and then the guy pulls it from, he goes, Jesus, it's in this paperwork. And he gets it, makes a copy of it, pretty much throws it to me. And I go back to state police within a day. I mean, I must have sat for hours. I never forget it. And they were like, oh shit. Then it's like, and instead of being like, okay, great, they almost were, I'll never forget it. It's like the BCI, they were almost like annoyed that I found it and they couldn't find it, and I was like, wait a minute. I go, I'm just trying to get on. And lo and behold, our class started and I didn't get the call. And I was like, what the hell? And then 2 days later, that's how I ended up being a backfill in our academy class. And what was that? So I guess you guys started on Halloween. I came in on the 1st of November of 2000, I remember. So that's how I got.
We started on the 30th, but yeah, whatever.
30th. So I remember on the 1st in the morning, phone rings. She goes, can you be up here by 2? And I was like, yeah. I just threw everything in a bag, drove up there, and that's boom, there we are.
All right, perfect. So
184.
Yeah, 184, fucking shit on the floor. So Rich, it is. So you get out of the academy. Where do you go? Right out of the academy.
So I didn't want to go back to like my hometown, because I grew up in Wappingers, and it's a busy station. It's like a lot of people in law enforcement, they don't realize in our area, it's state police. Like on any given night, you'll see like 10 or 15 troop cars out there, and you're like, what's the deal? And I mean, down here, it's like the sheriff's running. There's like 1 or 2 troopers, Alabama. So when I tell them this scenario split, they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, we used to. We rolled 2 people in a car, like 7, 8 cars, right? Between FK and I know L, same thing. There's a lot of people. So I didn't want to go back. I go train somewhere else. And they're like, you got to go back to Wapters, the area. And I go, I know everybody from bad guys. They're like, yeah, you're going back. So I ended up going back there. And that's where I was. I trained at Wappingers, then I went over to Stormville for the second half FBO, and then I got permanently signed to Wappingers. And it's like, holy shit, I'm in a town where everybody knows your name. So as soon as I start, right, people are, here you are in FBO phase, and troopers are going, hey, do you know such and such? I stop them. And the first thing out of my mouth is like, oh, do you know Maddog? Do you know Maddog, the trooper? So then, like, everybody at station is like, who is this fucking guy that's, working here, And then it's like, I remember FTO phase, we were doing a DWI checkpoint right on Route 9. I'll never forget it. And like a bachelorette party comes through in a limousine. So they're like stalling you. You're sitting there with your hats on, captains there, sergeants, everybody's making, big production, right? We're going to. All of a sudden, a sunroof opens up and these chicks like pop out and they're like, oh my God, Maddog, barely wearing anything, all, bachelor party drunk. They're not driving, the limo drivers. Yeah. And everybody's like, and I just look and the captain goes, Maddog, like this. And I go, listen, I never wanted to come back here. I go, this is the effects of what we have to do. And they're like, the girls are jumping out at the checkpoint, trying to like, I'm in uniform, and people are going by like, there's the poor guy in a corner shaking because he had 2 beers. Like, hey, what the hell's going on? They're only getting off because they're wearing nothing, right? There's a poor guy working for IBM getting, having them blow into an, Alcatraz, you're like, Jesus. So, I mean, and that's what I loved about the job is because when we first started, you had such great guys at the station. Everybody
Yeah.
worked together. And I think, it was more, we went out there, you did your job, right? We didn't always have to rest. We could be like, hey, knock off,
Yep.
do this. And it was well respected. I think that went on for a few years. It was really good. Like I said, I loved going to work. I thought it was great. I had a great bunch of
Yep.
guys at all my stations that I worked with, And I think that's what clicks, right? Because we all go to academy. We're all from different backgrounds.
Yep.
And, you gain that brother and sisterhood, but it works. It really works no matter how, not everybody's going to get along, but you know what? You realize in the end, like every day you go to work, it's not about me. It's about the people to the right and left of me. And that's what I liked about it. I never shot a handgun before going to the state police, but that's what I liked. I mean, it's just like, hey, I'm going to do my part, but I'm going to make sure we all go home or do whatever, and I love that about, it's almost like my whole life I played sports, it's high school American, college, and pros. And I like that. It was just camaraderie that, it does stay with you for a long, long time, for the rest of your days, which is great. And I think that is the best thing about being a cop, no matter where you are.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on that part, especially those stronger connections. So you go to Wappingers. What does your leading up to your event? What does your career look like for for your first few years there? Um, do,
Yeah. I mean, it's like worked in Wapters. So I was there I think it was just over a year. Oh, this is good too. So remember they had communications. You would get assigned to communications as a trooper. It
yeah,
used to
yeah.
be like a penal colony back in the day, like in '78. The guys who messed up or like, they would go there. So all of a sudden they're just like, oh, it's based off your line number. And I go, oh, I'm a backfill. So they send 6 people from Troop K to Troop K headquarters there in Salt Point, like in Pleasant Valley, and you have to work there for 6 months. Just answer the phones, right? That was their thing. I think did they do that in F2?
Similar. It was similar. Yeah,
Yeah. So the
yeah.
best part is you don't know. So next thing you know, I show up and I'm like, this is good. Here you're going from high speed, going out, loving job, making arrests, and the own guys are like, oh, you're going to the penal colony. You're like, what am I doing, right? So I show up, and it's like a who's who of like Troop K All Stars. Like it's Dave Comasanis, Lou Carasone, right? Porno Lou, myself. Who else was there? Russell Wright, I think. Porno Lou. That's a great story. We called him Porno Lou. I'll tell that story. And big and Smitty, right? Who's now Captain Smitty, right?
Yeah.
So we're there and we're just like looking at each other, like our faces. It just was like the phones would ring and you're just like, state police. They're like, is this, it was like, you're supposed to be like, hey, state police, Trooper Mattson,
Yeah,
like after the first day, because the public doesn't know, 90% of your job as a cop is very mundane, right? You're driving
yeah.
all the time. Yes, you have traffic enforcement, but for us in the North, you have complaints. There's little Billy playing with the cordless phone, 5,000 calls to 911, hang up, all this. I mean, it's, the weekenders from the city leaving their doors open, the IEDs going off, and you're just like, showing up there 45 minutes later and there's some cat, it's very mundane. And then, of course, it goes from that to high speed. So that's where it comes in. But when you work in communications, like people call, they're like, hi, and it's snowing. They're like, hi, what's the weather like? And you're like, where you calling from? They're calling from like right down the street. And I'd be like, oh, it's about 62, cloudy, a little sun. They're like, what do you mean? It's snowing where I am. I go, it's snowing everywhere in New York. Click, and we're hanging. So this went on for months. And then
Oh,
it went on for months. And then somebody goes to us, they're like, I remember BCI goes, man, look at you cast of characters here. They're like, just remember the phones are taped. And we're like, so we thought BCI was playing with us. I really thought it. So people call. Then you would have like nut jobs that were just mentally would call in and just be like, I don't like the state police. So here you are. You got like the headset on. So you're just hitting buttons, right? Because it's nonstop. And, we're just like, you know what? And we're just going to town, like going off on people. And we had one of the best communication sergeants. So this goes on from like BCI goes, just remember the lines of tape. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it was like snow, and we're just giving it to people like we don't care. Monday comes. So I was like, hey, can I talk to all you guys? It's pressing buttons. And then there's my distinct voice with a little twang in it, go fuck yourself, all this stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, the lines are taped? And he goes, yes, Rich, the lines are taped. And we're just like, I'm like, oh, we're going to get extended here. So it was quite common. So we finally got out of there, went back to patrol. I ended up at Stormville. So I was working the Deconic with, great crew. And that's what I love. No matter where you went, there was always great crew. And then you would interact with the guys on the T-way. So it was always a great learning experience. It was wonderful. So I went there, and then I remember the tryouts came for, well, at the time it was Mobile Response Team MRT. So tried out for them, and we all went up there, and then I got picked for, and that was 2006 in the fall. Yes. So I started, we did our training, which was like 7-8 months long. So I started January 2006. We got done in July, I think, right before. I remember because the Bucky detail was going on, and we had just gotten out, and we started there doing that. And yeah, and then I barely had 15 months on special operations before boom.
The incident. So
Yeah.
before we get into that, talk to me about the MRT training and what got you interested in that first and foremost, and then because we're going to spend a lot of time on the next part.
Sure. No. I mean, when you're academy, I remember we're still in the academy. We were talking at the time. It was Nevins, right? Captain Nevins was in charge. Well, of course, Nicky was in charge of the MRT. Basically, everybody. Kaufman. He was just the legend of state police, defensive tactics, and MRT. So he got into it. So I mean, I was talking to them while I was still in the academy. I remember Nevins he came in and talked about it, and then I was like interested. And I remember as soon as I got out, it was probably like, I think I had like 16 months on. They had a tryout, which was eventually like, I think that was like Joe Schmidt's class. Yeah, Silver Daisy, Mark Innes. I think that was their class. And I remember somebody was just like, oh, trying to 1 or 2 try out. I'm like, well, I don't have the 2 years on, and I remember that whole spiel. So then I had to wait for the next one. So that was, God, we got out. So we had that. So I think the tryouts were in like 2002. So I had to wait till 2005 with the tryouts. And then, so you do about 7 months. You're back at the academy, and it's great training. You're up early, 3:00 in the morning, you're PT, and and at the time that was like the first time they wanted to make everybody EMTs on mobile responsive sorts. So we had to do, you're out PT and pushing cards, Timmy was running a program. Man, I played for Miami Dolphins and the Buccaneers, so, you're looking at a guy who's like, he walks around like 240 solid. Yeah. And he's like 3:00 in the morning. All right, follow me. And he's running. And you're like, what is this? And I've always prided myself on being great. But I mean, that guy it was a machine. And so we trained hard. So when you get after that, then you're like sitting in classroom trying to be EMTs, and you've still got to go shoot, and you got to learn all this other stuff. Because you got to do weapons of mass destruction. You got to do all this stuff. And it's just like, wow. So I finally graduate in July, and like everybody that day at graduation, like pretty much I think 14 or 15 of us got picked. Like half of them went right up into that, the shitty Fredonia Bucky detail.
Yeah.
And the rest of us just stayed in troop, and we were so spread out. So I remember it was like just myself and Mark Innes that were covering like pretty much any, like, and we had to work with Pataki, sometimes he was traveling. So he wanted not only BCI, but you had to have MRT with him. So, man, we were going from there. And if there was any call outs when we were done, there was days you didn't get any sleep. And those guys, of course, were working out west. And then I remember we would rotate in and out doing that until we found this idiot up in, Buffalo area, Pennsylvania, wherever.
Excuse me.
So yeah, that training was very intense. It was great, shooting all the time, learning. Uh, couldn't ask for a better bunch of guys there too. Great Ron Pestino was running it. I mean, guys from your area like Jerry Winkowski. He was my ATL.
Yep.
I had Gogo as my sergeant, Gomez. Great guys all around. I mean, just they professionals. They were the consummate professionals, quiet professionals.
Yeah.
And then there was like me and Danny Lee, cast the characters. But
Yes.
we got it done, and it was just my South. The South team was. So for people who don't know, the MRT they're broken up into teams. So there's a border team, North Southwest, Albany team, South team, Central team, uh, and each team holds. I don't know what it holds now. I think they're like up to like 16, 17 guys, maybe more.
That's what I was going to ask. How many people per
Yeah, when
area?
I was on, we had about 14 on the South team. Some teams had more, like Buffalo. I think that was just based on attrition,
Yeah.
and Central teams, Albany team had a lot of guys, and now they have a new border team up there. So like up in, which would be like Governor, Troop B area,
Yeah.
so great bunch of guys. And after I got shot, like, uh, there was a lot of classes when they were switching over to sword. So I got to meet a lot of guys. I would go up there and, yeah, old and new. I don't even know how many guys are left, the old guys, but, the new guys are young new guys that came on. They're excellent human beings and incredible operators.
Yeah.
And I run into them at some of the events, before I moved down here, of course, but,
Yep.
aces all around the board. That's what I loved about it. No matter who you worked with as a trooper, even into special operations, you just got a great core bunch of guys that, you know, they're like, hey, we're here. This is how we're going to make it work. And it was wonderful. I think where you get in hand, then it becomes like everybody dealt with in police work, probably like 2010, the over micromanagement of policing, right?
Yeah.
Let's have 2.3 sergeants per every trooper in New York State or every
Yeah.
cop, and
Yeah.
that's where the camaraderie part. That's where a lot of stuff is just like, ugh. And then everybody is just trying to step on each other because they're like, I want to get to BCI or I want to get to a specialty, and you're losing that whole continuity that you once had.
Yep.
That I
100%.
and I saw that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then, all right, let's get into the day of the shooting or the
Yeah.
situation surrounding that. Um, the date. What date were we talking? When did
So
it actually?
I was shot on the 25th. The incident took place on the 24th of April, 2007. So what happened is this character, Travis Trim, he came from up by like Troop B area, I believe. Yeah, Troop B area. He was from up in that area. He had stolen a bunch of cars. He's not really a clear criminal. He had a warrant for like misdemeanor possession of like weed or something. He's only like 23, I think, at the time. So he borrows his friend's car. So Travis Trim leaves B area, comes down. He gets stopped by a sheriff in some town. They see that he has a warrant, but it's only for weed. He's like 4 hours from home. So they let him go. So he comes down, and I remember he gets stopped by Gambosi. They're actually looking for a burglary suspect in the town of Margaretville. So um, they stop him. His information doesn't add up. You get him out of the car, and then they're just like, listen, you gave us 4 fake names. Put your hands behind your back. So I guess he reaches under with this 22 handgun, hits Gambosi in the vest. Gambosi runs behind his car. He takes off. No one could return fire. I guess it was a busy little school was letting out or whatever. So then called everybody. They called our central team. We're hearing it on the radio where we were stationed at Stewart. And so then they were looking for him. So that was the end of it. We thought it would be the end of it. And then later that night, we got called that we were going to go relieve the central team in the morning because they still haven't found this guy. So that would be the 25th. So I left my house at like 3:45 in the morning, drove all the way up into Margaretville, New York. They're giving us a thing. We're driving around, probably for like an hour or two. We're working in teams of 2. We got guys that came in on H-1A, the helicopter, and they're sort of doing like elevated looking for stuff. So then turns out this the house alarm was going off, and there was a barn attached to it. So we go over there, and it turns out we find his bedding. He made this makeshift bed. There were some guns in the barn, his ID. And then I see there's a screen. A couple of us see a screen off the back of the window of the main house. And we're like, oh, this guy must have broken into the house. So we don't see anything. All the doors are locked. So he must have got up on the roof, ripped off the screen, and got into this window somehow. Strange thing is that house, it's an old, beautiful farmhouse, is owned by a sergeant who's a cop in Middletown, Rob Mill. He's in Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Okay.
So he owns that. I guess that's like their summer home or winter home where they go to ski and hunt and fish and everything.
Yep.
So we're talking, DCI's talking, command's talking. They're like, okay, breach the door. So there's only 7 of us, right? Because once again, we had all teams coming, like Albany team was coming, some other team was going to come. So you need numbers when you go into a house because you got to fill and flood. 2 guys go into a room. For some reason, the bosses are like, they turned around the Albany team. They said, nope, you guys have training. Go back to training. So we only have 7 guys going into this huge farmhouse. Once again, it just shows you like people trying to make this, save money, cut corners. So we go into the house and
Jesus.
it's big. It's bigger than we thought. So, but we're announcing, we're like, stay please. We see this one room's open. He tried to break into the guy's gun safe. He couldn't get in, thank God.
Yep.
Thank goodness. We go up the stairs. We clear one room. As I'm coming out, I watched Brink and Vidacy go into this one room right across from us. So I'm holding in my room to make sure they go in. Then I was going to come out. And then it just kicks off. Pop, 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 pop. And I see Brink fall back into the hallway. And I go to him. And at the time, Vidacy returns fire. And, very important to wear ear protection when you do raids. And of course, I didn't have mine in. When you let go with an M4 in a house, I'm like, wow. And Vidacy, he returned fire, Brink's on the ground. I go over to him and he's like, I'm good, I'm good. And at the time, there was a mark on Brink's vest where 22 had hit him in the big, heavy tactical vest, but he didn't feel it. So I helped him up. So what this guy did from this room, he went into this other room. It's like gave him like almost a 180 perspective. Then he popped out down the hall and he starts shooting down the hall. And I'm like, shit's hitting the ceiling above me. And my ears are still ringing. And I look and I see this figure. He had the gun out, just popping off rounds. And Brink goes, holy shit. So I help Brink up. He crawls on the ground to the doorway. He's good. Now, Vidacy had gone into the first room. He's in the doorway. I went down the hallway thinking my partner was with me, but he wasn't. So I went down and I quick peek this room and 2 shots come out of it. Like I couldn't even see the guy. He was behind the bed. He's just popping off rounds. And it went right by my face. And I was like, oh boy. So then there looked like he had put a cabinet and then he slid the beds over. And I'm like, I can't see through this. So we don't know if there's a home motor. We don't know if it's a hostage situation. We know nothing. And of course, the radio system was just trash.
Yeah.
They could hear that that shots fired, but they were trying to return communication. We couldn't hear it. I guess SP Sydney was hearing it, and they were just like, we can hear you. But we had such a hard time hearing anybody. So I remember Crow comes up the stairs, and he's like this. So he's like, him and Danny Lean and Joe Schmidt were down here. So Crow came up the stairs. He's pointing like low level, like almost like at the base. And I'm like, can you see anything? We're doing hands. So he couldn't. So him and I are like, I'm like, all right, let me go up, see if I can push this thing in or kick it in, and he could launch a flashbang. And because the guy wasn't doing anything, giving commands, didn't hear from him. So I go up, I sort of hit the barricade, the makeshift shelf or something. And as it's going, I looked, usually, you take the long way, but the door was sort of middle. I looked here and I see something like a shadow. I'm sort of like just about a foot from the doorway. So my gun's just sticking out. As I turn like this, boom. So he was just sitting down, tucked against the wall. He's not even in. He's just resting this 30-30 lever action on his knee, pointing up. So, and I'm righty. So when I went to this way, I came back like this. luckily, because normally in that situation, you would look and then switch lefty.
Yeah.
I would have caught it right in the face. We
Hey,
wouldn't even be here.
real quick. So those first rounds that were fired when you first tried to enter the room, you said they were from a 22. They kind of whizzed by your head. From that time until the time you secondly, where you got shot in your forearm, was there any other rounds being thrown in between there?
No, because the first volley was Brink took hit, Pete returned volley. We didn't know where the guy is. He heard two more shots that were at me, and I said something to the team. I'm like, he's in this room. I said, but he can go from room to room.
Yeah.
I said, I just yelled out to the guys because communications were just shit. So it's sort of like a lull in the action for about almost, I mean, time slows down, but I want to say like almost 30 seconds to a minute. Then I make
Okay.
the decision to hit the barricade. And then, so when I swing to the left, I just see a shadow and I see the flash and it hits me. And I go, like I told you earlier, you
Yeah.
ask anybody, everybody was like, oh, movies, they make it like you get blown back, this and that. I got blown back. I got blown.
Yeah.
I go back against the wall. My arm is like crumbled. The blood is purple. And there's this white chalk across my vest, which would later be my radial bone. It just pulverized it. There's this like, it's almost like this big abscess, this Schwen. It's just white stuff, purple and red. It's all over my vest. And it's like 3, 2, 1. So I let my, the M4 hang. I go to my Glock's right here in the drop holster. And I'm like this. The shock it was instantaneous. Like you felt it go through your body and it threw me back. And then when you see how crumbled your arm is, the searing pain was incredible. And then like I didn't black out, but you just felt nauseated. It's like the worst feeling in the world. And then I try to grab the Glock and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do anything. And I yelled out and I'm like, I remember yelling out, this fucker broke my arm. I'm out of the gunfight and I'm bad. And so I'm like sitting there and the tourniquet is right next to my drop holster. And I'm like this. I can't grab it. And I'm righty strong hand, thank goodness. And I'm like, I couldn't grab it. Luckily, Joe Schmidt comes up, and there's a bathroom straight here, but he grabs me. He sort of walks me back to this little foyer that has protection. I remember sitting on a couch with Joe, and I'm like, dude, it's so bad, and you're breathing heavy. You can feel like it was being hard to breathe. And I'm like, it's really, get this tourniquet on, get this tourniquet. So Joe, like, he's like looking at my arm. And I guess he wanted to straighten it because it was like really mangled to put the tourniquet on. Well, you're wearing like an Under Armour underneath, and like
Yep.
our little tactical shirts are pretty strong. So where the bullet went in is he's trying to straighten my arm to get this tourniquet on. Artery goes again, blood hits me in the face, goes all over Joe, all over his gun.
Oh.
And you could just see I went. And that's when, you're seeing it's like not even oxidizing, it's purple. So he puts the tourniquet on. Years later, it's like, we talked about it months later, like he had to send his M4 back to the, whatchamacallit, to the company because it was like my blood and all this other stuff in it. They had to give him a new gun.
Oh,
So
geez.
then I'm like, Joe, we got to go, right? I'm fucked. I'm really bad.
Hey, real
So we
quick, Rich. So real quick before you get into that.
Go ahead.
So after you get shot in the arm, you go back, you try to put the tourniquet on, you try to get your Glock out from your drop holster. Is there what's going on with Travis in that other room? And is there any other rounds going off? What's going
No,
on
there's
then?
nothing. It's nothing bad. I guess he's, I don't know what happened there because after Joe and I went around the corner, we get the tourniquet on. I'm like, we got to go. And Joe's smart. He goes, we don't know where he is. I said, I know, but if I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So I remember we make the decision. I'm like, we're going. Joe and I are going. So we go back down the stairs, get to the door. I'm holding on to Joe. He's holding on to me. I remember M4, everything. I have all my weapons on me as I come out the door. I see everybody. And like BCI is hearing these shots. And I look at him, I'm like, get down, get down. He's got a rifle, get down. And, once again, there was like cops from all different areas. There's like DEP police, this, and I'll never forget this. Like one of the guys, a young sheriff, young DEP guys, some other cops, they like came out from cover because they see us coming. They wanted to cover our exfil. And when you have time to think about this months after, you're just like, wow, I think that was the point where I knew, fuck, I'm going to be okay here. even though I was slowly dying, I was going to decompensated shock. Just the actions of Joe putting the tourniquet on, getting me the fuck out of there, and these other officers coming from cover to cover your exfil. I was like, man, they're risking man, they're putting themselves in danger. This guy had rifles. I
Yeah.
mean, incredible. And luckily our helicopter was there and we got to the helicopter.
How when you come out of that house, and you see all the other police officers, how many are there now staging, would you say about?
Everybody. I mean, you would have to say there was a lot of BCI, so a lot of road troopers.
So
It was
dozens,
just,
at least dozens.
I would say
Yeah.
we probably like between 20 people had already massed and they're running up. And
Yeah.
like I said, we were the only tactical team there at that time. But I want to say the sheriff's tactical team was coming to that scene after they heard shots fired. So
Yep.
they weren't that far from when I got into the helicopter to get airborne. So, so
All right.
we get
So then, yeah, let's walk through not only what happens from there, but like your mind frame. So when you first get shot, it sounds like you almost automatically have that oh shit moment. Like you almost immediately realize what's going on.
I was, it takes you back, right? Fight or flight will always happen. And my arm's shaking. I'm looking at it. I go, holy shit, my blood is purple.
Yeah.
And you know about that from, everybody tells you, like, oh, my mother was a nurse for 52 years. And you're like, oh shit. And I was just like, we got to go. And then you all know about the golden hour. And the pain was so incredible. I mean, it was, man, I couldn't even imagine. Like, it's like molten, like somebody sticking a molten hot poker from a fire, just searing, it wouldn't stop. And I was like, oh my God. And even with the tourniquet, you're still bleeding. Tourniquet does a great job. But I remember we get to the helicopter. And another great part of the story is like, get to the helicopter and Joe puts me in and the doors are open on H-1A. And he goes, and I'm sort of like, oh, now it's starting to get dark in my eyes and stuff. And I'm trying to, because I know if you pass out, especially going into decompensated shock, you probably won't wake up. Natural cause. It's just, I could sit there and make jokes with you. It's just a natural cause. Your body's shutting down. My heart rate was skyrocketed. And Joe looks at me and goes, hey, he sort of shakes me. He goes, you're going to go see, I'll never forget it. In the middle of Africa, he goes, you're good. You're going to go see Dr. Summeroff. You get it? You got the summer off.
Yeah.
And I just looked at Joe and I was like, oh my God. So it sort of like perks you up. And I was like, wow. And so I get in the helicopter. There's a trooper there. I'm like, dude, whatever you do, whenever you do, don't let me pass out. Don't let me pass out. So I'm sitting there. Now, the whole time, helicopter takes off. And our pilots are incredible, right? They're highly trained. He's like telephone wire high, just following the road down.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, dude. And the whole time we have these carabiners that you hook into the helicopter, no matter how we're traveling with, short. And I'm sitting there like this, still trying to put this stupid carabiner. I have no muscle control.
Yep.
And he's like, I got critically injured MRT. I got to get to Margaretville. They're like, you can't land at Margaretville. It's a tiny hospital. You got to put him down in the field. He's like going, I got to get him there. So it works out. We got to go to this field. So he's going straight like he's going to go to the hospital. And then all of a sudden they're like, get him to this field. There was a couple CNET guys that are going to drive me to hospital because you couldn't land a helicopter at Margaretville Hospital. So we're going and I'm sitting there and I'm bleeding. He just banks it. I start sliding on my blood.
Oh,
I'm not strapped in. And I'm like, and I'm going back. I remember co-pilot reaches back, the young trooper strapped in. He's trying to hold the leg. I'm sliding. We have the doors open. I'm like thinking to myself, what a way to go. What a way to go. Right?
Oh my God.
There's, like any good small town, it's probably 9:00 in the morning. There's a couple of people sitting in an Irish pub drinking, and here comes, Trooper Mattson crashing through the side window from a fucking helicopter. But I was like,
dude,
so
I don't
then
know
he's like,
laughing. I'm sorry about that, by the way. But it's
no, I laugh about it too. But that just shows you the greatness of people. So the pilot's like, God, yeah, he bangs it, comes, drops the bottom of it, and I'm like bouncing around. It was great. It gets me to the ground. I remember seeing that guys get me out. I'm on my feet. They throw me in the back of their car. I'm bleeding everywhere. And I just go, oh, guys, I'm sorry about your car. And I don't know these guys, right? Because that's Central New York. See that you don't even know some of these guys.
Yeah.
And he goes, don't,
Yeah.
and they're great too. They're like, don't worry, it's a rental, Rich. So I love that shit. And I was like,
Yeah.
so they get me to the hospital. We come in, and you just see the looks on people. They've never experienced this at their hospital, right? So we get down, and there's no doctors. There's a nurse practitioner, which turns out this guy, Chuck, amazing. He was a captain in the Marine Corps. He had just got back. He did a couple tours, so he knows high
Oh yeah.
velocity
Yeah.
gunshot wounds. So he
Yep.
comes in, he goes, "Hey, Rich, my name's Chuck." He's looking, he goes, "I got to cut the tourniquet." I go, "Don't cut the tourniquet," because everybody knows in SWAT and tactical, we refer to it's not ABC, it's CVA, just do circulation, breathing, airway. If you're bleeding to death, you're no good. Let's stop the bleeding, control your breathing, and maybe you can still stay in a gunfight if possible, or get you set to travel to get to the hospital. So he gives me 10 milligrams of morphine, and he looks at me, and I'm just like, the whole time it went in me, and I go, "Chuck," I go, "The pain is brutal." He goes, "I just gave you 10 mgs," and I'm like, brutal. I couldn't even lay down. The pain was so they cut the tourniquet. Bruises again. Poor nurses are just like this. There's girls there that are like week one on the job. They've seen
Oh
like flu and stuff, so you can tell they're getting
yeah.
nauseous. And I was like, oh my God. So the nurses are great. They just wrap my arm with towels. Towels are filling up within 30 seconds, throwing that bundle down. Because, your artery's down. I lost like 8 inches of it. So then he calls Albany Med. They give me, I think it was a total of between 20 and 25 mgs of morphine, nothing.
Oh
Whether supposedly I have a aversion, or it was going out of me too fast so it could stay. But I was like, oh my God. And he couldn't give me any more. I'm like, get the
yeah.
tourniquet back on, get the tourniquet. And we're sitting there, and yeah, and I'm conscious the whole time. And I remember one of the CNET guys, he dialed the number from my mom. I got my mother on the phone. I'm like, listen. And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, I'm not joking. I got tagged. Go. And at the time, my son was 2. He's in daycare. I'm like, you got to get him. Hopefully, I get to Albany Med. Blah 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 blah. It was crazy. I mean, because you're just giving
Yeah.
somebody this brief conversation, and
Yeah.
you're like, here I am. I'm in a real bad way. I may not see you again. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
So did
grateful
you
that I.
when you're having that conversation with your mom, are you unsure? And do you like what do you tell her? Like, do you tell her exactly what's going on, or do you try to be
Yeah.
strong for her?
No, I said I got shot. It's really bad. I said just go get Tegan at the daycare, and that's all I know. I said go get
Yeah.
that, and somebody from the state police will get in touch with you. I said I gotta go. It's really in a bad way. I'm going, and I said I will be going over. Well, my mom was a nurse for 52 years in ICU, so
Yeah.
she's seen some shit. But I mean, I guess coming from your son, it's not the best call you should be getting at like 9 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the last thing. And then I'm sitting there, and they had called for one of the life flight helicopters. And I remember waiting. So they're prepping me. They're just wrapping my arm as best they can. They're not putting a tourniquet on, which I was nervous about because I could feel like once a tourniquet's on, that nauseated illness that you feel. And like, it's like this, it comes over you. It's a crazy feeling. That started to come back because I didn't have the tourniquet. I mean, keeping the blood pool towards your heart takes away from that feeling. So as I'm sitting there, I hear, oh my God, we have another one coming in. And I go, what? And the investigator's like, what? And they run into the other room. And at that time, they had brought Rinkin. And I hear all the commotion. Who is it? Who is it? And then the doctor comes and he goes, Rich, you're going to have to wait. He goes, your buddy has to go first. He goes, I got another helicopter on the way. I go, Doc, who is it? He goes, it's the little guy. And I go, how bad? And this guy was a nurse practitioner, but just was in a combat situation. This guy was like nerves of steel. Great guy, amazing human being, amazing medical professional. He just goes, it's that bad. And I went,
Wow.
and that's like the worst news. So, I mean, so this whole
Wait.
helicopter.
So what the fuck is rushing through your head at that point? Then you have to be thinking about not only yourself, but what the fuck happened at the house? How the fuck did he get here? Like what?
Yeah.
How
And
can
it,
you
and
even?
and this story gets more fucking fucked up as it goes on. So then I'm like, get him there, get him there. So then finally, they must have taken him out. They bring me my ambulance to that same field where the helicopter lands. So the other helicopter comes in and they put me on the second one, tiny helicopter. I have this great flight nurse with us. And they gave me a headset. I remember that. The pilot had the headset on. He goes, Rich, I'm going to get you there as fast as we can. So, mind you, Albany Med is having a mass casualty training event the same day us too. They're training for an event. This is where the story gets even more fucked up. Dave's wife is a nurse at Albany Med that day.
Fuck.
So they stopped that training event. We have two inbound troopers gravely injured. So she's calling her husband, which she doesn't get. Second phone call, probably somebody else I know. My phone, I think she called my phone. No answer. She's at the hospital. So Albany Med is just like, Mattson is in one, Brinkerhoff is in flight 2. But that's not the case because they had to switch them. So Brink's in 1, I'm in 2. We're in the air and we're going, and you hear the pilots talking. You actually heard like Albany International saying, hold all flights at 30,000. We have 2 critically injured inbound troopers to Albany Med, which was wonderful. So everybody was hovering. We're going through, and just before we get through to that airspace, I remember I hear they're like, ambulatory 1 or wherever they went by, we have to touch down. We have no vitals.
No.
And I just went, and that was a reality. Like you never thought, like I could deal with the pain. I can deal with the blood, even years later, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't sleep much, you got the PTSD, but the reality of dying, it's such a young age for somebody like Dave. And, that, I feel for that every day because couldn't imagine what his family, especially knowing his mom and everybody and his brothers on the job. It's just, that's pain. That's never, there's nothing you can do to absorb that, no matter how long it goes on. I mean, it's going to be 19 years this April. That pain that they have to deal with from years on, I couldn't only imagine. So they go, flight 1, we have to touch down, no vitals. So the pilot goes, I'm so sorry. He goes, but I'm not going to lose you. So they're hushing. So everybody on Med hears that. So they think I'm dead because there's like Rich is shot. I guess it came over. I was shot, artery shot, very critical. Heart rate was 190 in the 190s, which is decompensated shock. I guess Dave's came in with like facial shock, but that wasn't the case, of course. And I remember landing on the roof at Albany Med, and yeah, that's I landed, and it's I guess they didn't expect to see me there, and there I am, and I can only imagine what Barbara, felt like at that moment too, So they rushed me down, and at the time, after I talked to my mom, state police once again did a great job. Everybody. They sent numerous people to pick up, when I was married at the time, and they sent somebody to my parents' house. So a trooper actually got to my parents' house, took my mother to go get my son at daycare. My father got in a troop car. He went to Troop K headquarters to get on a flight with my ex at the time and go up to Albany Med. So aces on the book right there, just like this, everybody, aces. And, I remember getting there and the hospital, and you land, and at the time they had all the new doctors. All the new doctors had started 2 days before me, so I'm in this room, and the main ER doctor, he's got this cranking ponytail, he's got ink on him, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I think I'm going to be good here, because usually, I'm all covered in tattoos. I'm not saying I'm going to be super cop, but when somebody's in the medical field and they got the cranking hair, like he looked like a biker, I'm like, okay, I should be okay here, right? And he's looking at my arm, and he just goes, wow, rough day, trooper. And I went, I looked at him and I smiled, and he's talking to me. Nurses are prepping, just like like I said, everybody from the law enforcement side were on point. The first hospital who never experienced anything on point. And then, of course, Albany Med is a trauma center on. Nurses are doing a thing. There's this little guy going, "Hey, are you ready?" Yeah. He goes, "Sign here. This is because we might have to chop off your left arm." Everybody's talking to you. He goes, "When you chop off your left arm, save your life. Can you sign? I'm signing this." And, you're just looking, and then they're just like, everything comes off you. And I had just gotten these brand new, I think it was Danny Lean had these new tactical 511s. So of course, Danny Lean and Danny Lean fashion is like, "Come on, Rich, take my boots, try my boots, So I get these boots from Danny Lean, brand new out of the box. This is like the first time I wear 'em. And I know they're expensive. They're like up to like 160 or whatever. I'm like, "Whatever you do, don't cut they cut the boots. And I was just like, and I was thinking about it, like, and then, weeks later, there's Danny Lean going, "Trade's a trade. Trade's a trade. You're not getting anything for this." And, but I'm sitting there totally naked, and then all these people come in, all different nationality backgrounds. And they're drawing. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm, on the slab, they're looking, they're prepping, and they're calling the ER. And I'm like, "Hey, what's up with all the ghouls?" These people. And the doc goes, "Oh, this is the new students." He goes, "This is day 3 for them." He goes, "You're going to be their specialist." So they had to draw my arm. They had to see the vitals. And I'm looking at these, and here they are, young medical students in their 20s, and just watching them, like, probably like the same way we were when we wanted to become cops, all starry-eyed. "Oh my God, look at this guy bleeding
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
death." It's just a different aspect. So, and all I remember go down. Now it's like close to 10, rush me into the OR. I'll never forget, they're cranking AC/DC. From album 2, it was Care of the Devil. And I'm like, "Is AC/DC playing, or have I really just gone on to Valhalla?" And the doctor goes, "This is what we play." And I was like, "Great." And then he just walks up. He goes, "Rich, I just want to let you know, we're probably going to cut your arm off." He goes, "You're really bad off. Your heart rate, we got to control that." He goes, "But we're going to try." Put the mask on me. And 17 hours later, I wake up. It's like 4 in the morning. Still with my arm on, but
Yeah.
just
Hey,
incredible. Yeah, go
real
ahead.
quick.
What do you got?
Maybe a tough one, because I noticed you changed when you talked about it. So you
Yep.
land right at the airport, and you realize that Brink's wife realizes that you're in the helicopter and he's not. So you automatically know that she knows what the deal is. Um, do you have like that guilt? Do you feel like, "Oh fuck," or like how do you feel? Obviously,
You know what?
it's a tough
That's
feeling, but like,
that's a wonderful question. You know what? And there's people that have that survivor's guilt when you can do that. I didn't experience that like that. And then later that night when I woke up, like early that next morning after the first surgery, I did, Barbara was there, and we talked. And that's the most gut wrenching thing to ever see. Like I
yeah,
said, I always try to keep a positive mind no matter how bad it gets. But to see her, they were this young couple, he just had a baby 6 months prior,
yeah,
and now she has to deal with that. And I was just like, I saw the look on her face, and that's one thing that stays with you. That's
yeah,
tough because, I know it's been 18 years, and, she's I mean, we still talk to this day, and strong woman and stuff, and great family, and Izzy's doing, wonderful. But it's still the pain,
yeah,
I mean, I had the physical pain, but to see that pain where something that was like your love or center, I mean, man, it broke you. It broke me.
yeah,
Like I saw it. I was like, because what do you say? Because I didn't know, because I even said, I go, "Listen, I was shot first." I had no idea. It was like this quick 5-10 minute interlude before he got shot. So I had no idea what transpired in the house. I had no
yeah,
idea. And it's tough because you see that and it breaks your heart because, you know, dead is dead, and it's really
yeah,
shitty. And what the lasting effects that does, because people always see me, they're like, "Oh my God, you're so funny, you're so upbeat. I wouldn't even know you were shot," right? I can cover my arm. I talk with my hands anyway. You don't realize until I'm holding it
yeah.
up that, "Oh yeah, I got a permanent middle finger," which, I mean, if you think about it, that's a pretty good, that's not a bad deal after getting shot with a high powered rifle. If I can walk
Sure.
around and be like, like no matter where I am, I'd be like, listen,
Yeah.
and people are like, what's the matter with this guy?
Yeah.
But, and I can joke like that. And unfortunately, when you lose somebody, a tragedy like Brink, it's very hard. I don't think the laughter comes for a long time, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's, I feel for them. I feel for his family. I feel for his mother, his brothers, everybody, because I wouldn't wish that. I wouldn't want to deal with that, myself. It's just so
Yeah.
much to take on.
Rich, listen, we talked about this off air before we talked.
Yep.
And I want to get into more of your injury and your after the shooting life. But one of the things I said to you was, it's amazing that I only got bits and pieces of this event. I barely knew anything about what happened, right? And I'm a trooper. We came on the same time. We're literally stationed the next troop over. And granted, it happened a little bit further away, but it's literally given to you bits and pieces. And it's designed that way
Oh,
by
it's
by by the
because
powers
you
that
look
be.
at you have Trooper Gambosi shot. You have an officer shot, luckily in a vest, in the line of duty. That transpires to me being shot, and then it transpires to Brink, unfortunately, being killed by blue on blue, by friendly fire. And that is something no police department, wants to deal with, right? Because you're like, okay, 3 officers were shot. One was shot by another member of the MRT. And I get it. And unfortunately, like we talked about, that was probably right around 2008, 2000, probably after I retired, but probably around 2007. You even listen, they sent the North team and us. We had tons of guys. If we would have went into that house with tons of guys, my result would have been that's where it stops, right? When you don't have enough guys, yeah, I could have peeked that room, gotten tagged. There would have been a shit ton of guys. I mean, with fully automatic weapons, they would have ended the threat. That's the price we take. Rich is gone. It's my left arm. I got a permanent middle finger. I'm retired from the job. You know what? I'll take that all day. Everybody's alive and well. Bad guy's dead. I get out with a fucked up arm. That's a win-win no matter how you look at it, right? And that scenario actually played because after I left in a helicopter, I guess this guy tried to peek around a corner, and the Daisy can see him there was a mirror in the room, could see him like peek in the doorway. Both him and Brink could see, and they fired. And by all accounts, this was what makes the story even more fucked up, is Brink's bullet hits the dude in the noggin, kills him. And then he is then therefore killed by friendly fire from somebody shooting from behind Brink. So if that gentleman, so you look at it as like, if that person, it's like, we train like somebody's down in front, you're on top of them, or you don't shoot. You have to cover all your bases. But I get it. It's a firefight. And it is chaotic. There's no communications. Your own guys are there and you're using hand signals or screaming that you're out of the fight because there are, a lot of shots. Smoke fills the rooms when you're blasting away. It's hectic. It's chaotic, and you're always going to have people that are not on their job. Like, oh, how can that happen? How can that? I go, motherfucker, be in a gun battle. There's no
Yeah.
rules. There's no regulations. The bad
There's no
guys
fucking
have
timeouts.
we
There's no
have
timeouts,
we
right?
have we follow an etiquette to a T. We have to.
Right.
We're not firing in. I'm not firing into an empty room because he's holding grandma by the shoulders. You
Yep.
can't. You have to be right. You have to be disciplined, but we're aggressive disciplined because we're disciplined. Shots are fired. We hold through. When we get shot, if one of us goes down or injured, we don't pull out. The guy gets pulled out and the person goes where I am. So that's somebody takes my position and we don't give up the ground we take. We stand and fight. Even though we may not have a clear shot, we may wait. But the moment it presents itself, the odds is always going to be in SWAT or police's favor because we are disciplined under fire. But when it's happening and you're sitting there and, we don't know how you're going to react different than I'm going to react, how somebody else is going to react. I mean, there's blood everywhere. I mean, look at Joe, calm under fire. Not only does he tourniquet my arm, get me out of the house, make a quick joke about Dr. Summeroff, this fucking guy runs by everybody, goes back up to the stairs to the same floor where they're dealing with now a secondary shooting where Brink has been shot. And they have to now exfil another dead body. You know what I'm saying? You don't, guys like that, you don't train that. That's, he
Yeah.
has training, but it's here, right? His
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
like people always like, oh my God, you joined, like civilians, you joined SWAT. I'm like, I never feared not coming home. The guys I had on my team, I mean, my God, Danny Lean, Jerry Winkowski, all these guys, holy shit, Mark Innes alone, genius. Art Kakish, beyond, like the hidden gem of the state. I have people, I could laugh all day because I'm like, sure, the day goes bad. I'm surrounded by dudes that, if I was a chick I'd date, it's like they are such studs. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by studs. And I'm like, I never feared that. I
So I mean,
never
so
feared
the
it.
moral story is this, like, and still to this day, we're 2025. The job tries to hold things back from its members.
Yeah, they
How
told the
is it?
North team, they told the Albany team to go back to Albany because they had some training. You need bodies, right?
Yeah.
We're lucky, like not to be disrespectful, I forget what so Margaretville is Delaware County. I think it was Delaware County Sheriffs, and I guess there was some DEP had a tactical team. I mean, I know they were in the area the day before, and they were coming to this area after I was shot. I mean, it gets to a point where you're like, you don't want to pay overtime,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you're not going to pay overtime. Now you're going to have 6,000 people standing at a funeral for somebody who's 27 because you didn't want to pay overtime, or you didn't want to, like I always tell you. And as this story goes on, I mean, I remember after I got out of hospital, I had to give my after action, and it wasn't nothing to do with that. It was all about, because that house burnt down, right? We've put in tear gas. And in my interview afterwards, you have Terrell Affairs. Did you They're like, who gave the order to tear gas? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I go, Guy, and I'm like looking at them like I was long gone. I was in the hospital. And they're like,
Yeah.
you're not answering the question. They're arguing with me. They're like, did you? I go, so let me get this right. You're telling me running from the house bleeding, did I hear anybody say, let's throw in hot gas? They're like, yes, that's the question. I just was like, right then and there, I knew I wasn't coming back to the state police for asking that question. Here's
Yeah.
my take is this: a cop is shot, right? Do you have somebody actively shooting, carrying up that you burn down? It's an unfortunate area, but you're going to do what you can do to protect officers. You're going to protect lives. That's their job, right? We all, state police, oh, we have these core values, this and that. Hey, knock on wood, customer service, guess what? It starts with your fucking people, not the
Yeah.
public. It
Yeah.
starts with your own people who are in the troop cars, right? The most dangerous thing is to walk up to a fucking stranger's car in the middle of 17th, Iconic, 90, 98. You don't know who the fuck you're stopping.
Yep.
That's the person. That's your customer service, not the person in the car. It's your
Yeah.
trooper who's putting on the shield and gun every day to go out there and give back to his community. That's who you need to have your customer service. Don't worry about somebody said, oh, hey, what the fuck are you doing? This, that's the micromanagement took over policing. And now look where we're at. Now
Yep.
it's like kid clubs everywhere. And I'm not
Yep.
saying that changes the scenario. Like I said, if all the teams came together and we went in and I got shot, fucking every day I'm still talking to Brinkhoff, listening to him bust my balls to this day. That's a good day. And listen,
Yeah.
if I'm not I mean, if the scenario still played out that I'm still never going to be a trooper ever again in 2008, I do that I take a bullet every fucking day to have him, or go back to where Donnie and Joe were shot and Bucky Phillips, have Joe and Brink still here. Cause and Donnie not shot, you take those odds. You do what it takes to fucking end threats and protect cops. You don't micromanagement. Even in the Bucky detail, after he already shot Brown. He already shot Donnie. He shot Joe. They're like, okay, he's cornered here. When you catch him, right, we're going to walk him out. They wanted to walk him out to the camera. I go, he
Yeah.
shot 3 cops. He ain't walking out. He's going out, and they were under this assumption in Troop A that this guy's gonna fucking somehow just walk out and
Yeah.
not shoot up, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing early on in that manhunt. I remember showing up, great canine officer. I mean, I don't have to mention his last name. I think everybody knows him, Bob. Great fucking guy. Had a Rottweiler. I forget the dog. I forget the dog's name. He was up in A. Fucking great guy. I don't want to put him out there, but he knows if he's listening. We, as we're pulling up, they saw Bucky. It's the middle of the night, no lights on. Whatever I remember he had this fucking, it was like Genghis Khan for a fucking canine. Release he goes, I have the suspect. He's doing everything. Release the dog. You end this whole manhunt. It's over. No, no, no. Don't release the dog. Well, what's the sense? We're not taking it. I mean, I'm all for bringing the dog to the daycare to let little Billy and Timmy pet the thing and draw pictures, give them a little baseball card. Hey, this is canine such and such. But in the end, the
What the fuck are the
canine
dogs
needs
for? Yeah, what are they
canine
for?
needs to be be tasting attempted murderer's blood. That's what he needs to be doing.
And deploy that dog.
And that's bad calling back on that detail, and then the calling to stop people coming to this detail, and then the eventual, oh, hush, hush. You get out there and be like, we had a gunfight. And I think Preston did an incredible job when he was interviewed. He had just taken over from Bennett. And that's a shitty position to be in as their boss, but he goes, hey, these guys were in an intense gunfight. And unfortunately, we had a blue on blue incident. And the aftermath, it's not fair, and then of course Harry came in, who was another great leader for state police. He got in touch with me and I went and sat with him. We talked about this incident. I mean, there's been some great leaders that just were like, hey, they came to see me in the hospital. Even Bennett, when he had first retired, he came to see me in the hospital. These were great leaders that really cared about the job, really cared about what the state police was about and about their men. Like, they knew your name, they knew your family. It was all about making sure you got home to your family at night. And I mean, I've been long gone since 2008, so I don't know where it went wrong. But I think, as we're seeing today in this age, it needs to change somewhat.
Yeah. Hey, let's turn the page real quick. So let's do after. Like, how many surgeries you have on your arm?
5 total. And I sent you the picture this morning of one where it's laid open.
Yes.
I mean, so they had to do the artery first. They took the saphenous vein from my leg, strung it where the artery was. I got like some wire as a bicep because that was blown away. Bullet fragments still are from the top of my shoulder all the way down to my wrist. I don't have supination, pronation. Of course, I got this wonderful middle finger that everybody loves. So 5 surgeries. Albany did before, and then I went to the hospital, special surgery. Great doctor, give him a shout out. I know he's retired, Dr. Weiland, probably the best hand surgeon in the country at the time for HSS, hospital special surgery. So amazing. Him and his crew, they had to do stuff, take some ligaments here. They actually, since the hand's not useful, they had to make this little lobster claw, put a tack through my thumb. So I have this little thing so I can actually hold like stuff like that, but I got to put it. So it's almost like a potato chip clip. So that's what this is. So I don't have much use of it. I can't really grab stuff. I mean, I fake it very well. Like I said, every day I'm up doing something. I got a kettlebell in the right arm. I'm doing 1-arm burpees. I go out for long walks. I'm on Orange Beach, year round. Year round, I could be in the ocean here if I wanted to. I mean, so it's a static injury. We'll never get better. It's going to be like it is. I mean, the good news is 90. If I have grandkids, at least I'll still have a middle finger to yell at them if they're like screwing around with my TV set,
Yep. So then, Rich, when was that? First of all, your last surgery, which was a hospital for special surgery, what year was that?
So I had the 4 in 2007. They waited a year. So it was almost coming up on my 2-year anniversary. So it was probably like 16 months. They had to let a lot of things heal before they can go back in there. And they did that surgery to just do the intricate stuff in the hand itself.
What about PT? Was there?
Yeah, I had wonderful woman, Laura. She was at um, Northern Dutchess Hospital. Like, you have to go on. They're like, you need an occupational therapist. I'm like, what? You need somebody to take who specializes in hands. So there was a gentleman I knew who was in LaGrange, Grange PT. Big shout out to them. They were wonderful. Fred and his crew. I went in there and there's Fred like, like, what am I doing with this? Right now, I still had 187 staples, stitches, and like his job was to get the swelling down. So he's just like, poor guy.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Yeah.
there's Karen going, oh my carpal tunnel. What can you do? And it's
Yeah. And
quite
then you,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, and then so I went to see him, and then I had to go see Laura up in Northern Dutchess, and incredible, just ingenious. And like the first day, they want to. She's doing this assessment, so I'm with her for a long time. So she has this sink filled up with warm water, and then cold water. Just throws a penny in. Now, mind you, I only need this, and she goes, pick up the penny from the warm water and put it to the cold water. I go, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just day one, but are you fucking kidding me? And she goes, I need, this is part, and she goes, and so I'm like this, like I got to slide this penny. It's dropping like 15 times. And I'm looking at her and I'm trying not, I have a demented sense of humor. So I'm like looking and she's just like realizes she didn't realize that it was, she realized it was bad, but I guess the movement and I'm doing this and I'm like, and I flick this penny up and I'm like, I hit it with my right arm and it goes out of the sink and I go, "Are we good?" And she goes, "Yes." And then it was like, but if it wasn't her attitude like that, it helps because that was started 15 months of
Yeah.
ruling PT because you can't open your fingers. Like
Yeah.
when I tie my shoelaces now, I mean, I wrap it around my middle finger, it sticks out. I pull it tight. I'm making bunny ears. I do everything. She showed me that. Like
Yeah.
they're like the cheat codes. Like
Yeah.
this woman was incredible, and so I cheat code. That's why I'm like people see me. Like it was like today. I mean, woke up. It's like 45 degrees, a little cold. I'll walk barefoot, right? Because I don't want to be bothered there. People are like, "Oh, you New York boys down south with your cold blood," and I'm just like, it's just you. You just have to adapt, and I think
Yeah.
that mindset, like I said, from day one, not only your teammates, troopers, SORT, MRT guys, doctors, staff, PT staff, I have to, live 1,000 years to repay what was given to me. I mean,
Yeah.
like I always say, what people did, people like Joe Schmidt, Daisy, everybody during that gunfight, after that gunfight, you know, our bosses on this, great boss on state police, SORT, I have to live a 1,000 years just to pay them back because even still to this day, I hear from some of our great bosses that retired years before me, years after MRT guys. So there is that group that will stay with you. I just hope, you know, future, especially for the, state police will always have my heart because of what we are and the brotherhood and the sisterhood of state police is so immense that they make those changes, right? You can't just treat people like a shield number or a quota, right? You just
Mm.
can't do that because eventually tragedy is going to strike. And what is done when that strikes makes a difference because if you forget about those that went out there and always put their life on the line, I mean, what good are we then? What have
Yeah.
we done? Right? What have we
Yeah.
done as a whole?
Yeah. Rich, with you said it's coming up on in April, it'll be 19 years, you said?
19
Since
years. Yeah.
so now I want to talk about becoming a judge and what made you do that. But before I do, before I do, like what the you had mentioned sometimes you don't sleep that much. Is that because of pain or is that because of you constantly is it mental? Is it psychological? What's going
Yeah. I
on?
think, you know what? Luckily for me, I was able to talk to this really great guy. He was actually, he was a high up special forces guy. He works with a lot of guys from Delta and some of our top forces that have been shot. And I was able to talk to him. We talk on the phone. right after I was shot, which is, and I knew going into it, like when you get out of there, you know, I knew that I'd never be when I walked into the hospital special surgery, not to take away from Albany, Albany was very like, oh, we can do nerve transfers later in life. We can probably do something. Put the x-rays up, and I'm watching Dr. Weiland. He's looking at everything. He's just like, oof. He's looking at the bullet fragments. He goes, ooh, assessment, 3 months. He goes, listen, here's the deal. He goes, I don't hold back. He goes, you're never going to be a cop again. He goes, do you need time with that? Like, I go, he goes, do you need time with that? I go, I don't know, maybe a candy and a little kiss before I take it straight. And he laughs and he goes, what I'm going to do, and this is in 30 seconds. He goes, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to give you a hand. He goes, it's going to look like this after all said and done. And I went, holy shit. He did this to me like how my hand would look. And I'm thinking to myself, fuck, this guy predicted exactly how my hand was going to come out. I'm like, what the fuck did I do in life? I mean, look at the guys that saved my life. They took the vein. I got a huge scar on my leg. They took a saphenous vein and rethreaded my artery. That guy was like 29. I was like 29, vascular
Yeah,
surgeon. I was like, there's people
yeah.
out there that are just, I'm so grateful for because, they saved my life, but they also gave me ability to, I mean, I don't have use, and I knew going into it I wasn't going to have use, but it's just, it's
I
tough. I
like,
mean, you deal with
yeah,
it. So the sleep, I think the sleep for me is like you go into it and you see things, right? If I get frustrated during the day, and I don't know what it is, but I know coming up on like April or some of the days of the events, you sit there and you're like, it's not like this. It's so hard to, it's like this overwhelming. You just feel like you just go, and you're just like, it's weird. It's like you try to take a deep breath or you try to like focus and it's hard. It's like it puts you on the days where you drift a lot. And I know some of those days, let me just chill. I mean, I live down in paradise, I'm like
yeah,
25, 30 minutes from the beach. I can walk on a beach and, it helps. Or, my son lives with me here. He's 20. So we do things and it's like I was early on, I had great people who are like, it's never, we can't change that. Right. They always try to say, oh, if you lock those little folders away in your brain, you'll be able to get on. Bullshit. You're not going
yeah,
to, here's the
yeah,
thing. You can lock all your traumatic memories away. That's great, but you don't hold the key. So you don't know
yeah.
when that motherfucker is going to pop open. And like
So,
I said,
is that what happens, Rich? Do you like? Do you replay? Do you like replay
I
that?
don't
Does it
replay
go
the
through
shooting.
you?
You just have this feel. It's almost like, like you see like those fucking ghost shows where somebody's like, ooh, those phony ghost
Yeah,
shows they do. I
yeah,
have that feeling sometimes. I'll be like this. I definitely like crowded spaces are tough some days, not all the time. Like I can go and and enjoy stuff. I can do that, but sometimes you're just like, you know what I do? It's so weird. And I used to do it a lot, but I even do it more. Like I park so far away, like if I'm going to the mall or store and I just walk. And it's like almost helps me clear to deal with whatever I have to deal or if someone comes in
yeah,
and little stuff like that. I mean, it's been 19 years to say that I know when it's coming on. I do, I don't. Sometimes at night you sit there, you wake up. It's not like bad dreams. It's almost like reminders. There might be a flash of this, it might be a flash of that. I don't really remember in dreams a lot, which
yeah,
is weird, but I do wake up and I'm like, huh. So you're like, you're, it's, it's the devil, right? It's how you deal with it, right? It's like I could sit here and say, "Woe's me." I'm supposed to be on Percocet, like I told you before this began. It's like a bottle like the size of this ghost drink. They're like, you
yeah,
need to be on Percocets because you're going to get chronic pain, which I have
yeah,
at times because I have a plate now it screws. But the point is, we're just math, right? The only thing we do in this country is create customers. We don't create healing. For me has to come from if it's bothering me, this and that. I got to do something like walk. I got to take the dogs for a walk or just like do whatever. Because if you rely, there's so many officers get critically injured in this country, and when I started talking about it right after I was shot, I was amazed. Like I gave out my email and cell phone. The amount of people that reached out to me, I was horrified at how their lives, it just went the same story. Lost my marriage, lost my kids, became addicted, became an alcoholic. I am so grateful I never drank. I'm just naturally like off my noodle, but the people that have to struggle with that and what they've lost. And I sit here and go, fuck, I just got a middle finger, bad circulation, and I don't sleep much. It really, and that's why I'm saying, and not to take away from our EAP, which was amazing and they still grow. And I know we learned from like Pennsylvania State Police EAP, great bunch of guys, Jersey. You need those connections. We really need to push that, right? You really need that. That should be first and foremost, right? You get in an incident, it should be like officer go the fuck home, trooper go home. We're going to talk about this in 3 days. Get your thoughts. I mean, granted, we know there's after actions. We know there's IAB investigation. There has to be. We get it. It's a necessary evil. But the brain only processes your brain. My brain is totally different. We don't know how people are going to process stuff.
Yeah.
That's why when I was in my interview, I just looked at it like, why the fuck are we worried about hot gas? Even the guy's house who we burnt down was a cop. He even told the trooper, he goes, officers were shot in my house. He goes, you burn that fucker out of my house. I don't care. He goes, that guy dies. I don't want to. So here's a guy in Jersey going, burn my fucking house down, take care of business. Telling the state
Yeah.
police this. We burn the guy's house down. Unfortunately, it's tear gas. Whether it's hot or cold, it lands on a blanket. That's your choice. Luckily, he was killed beforehand and died. But you know what? You can't replace. Like I said, even he knew you can't replace the pain of losing an
Yeah.
officer. And that
Yeah.
family can, no matter how many years goes on, they will never replace that pain. It's just,
Yeah.
I hate
I
seeing stuff like that, especially when I see it in the news. You're just like, man, I know what they're fucking going
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Shitty.
And I think what you said, it's not necessarily your words, but perspective, how you perceive what the position that you're in. Like you have your fucking left arm half blown off and you have this permanent injury. But guess what? You're alive. You have relationships in your life and you're pretty fucking healthy. You're doing okay,
Yeah.
right? And if you can't
Yeah.
think of it like that, you're going to be one of those guys that gets addicted to pills, alcohol, and then you're going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. I think what it is learning to, right? Scars, right? Like they all say, great strong, right? Scars remind us the past is real. So this reminds me, this big scar I got on my arm all the way up, one on my leg. That's the past. Does it define me? At times, maybe, right? Because people, at times you get to the point like, oh, fuck, especially when I became a judge, like, oh, that's Trooper Maddog. He was shot. Now he's Judge Maddog. And, I don't want to be the guy that's always shot, but it will always define. It will always be there. And like I always tell people, for me, say something funny, make me laugh about it, this and that. I mean, one of the greatest human beings to do that, besides Danny Lean, would be Pete for Daisy. I remember he came to see me. After I was in the hospital a couple of days, he's just like, and when afterwards I was speaking and doing the stuff and people were talking about it, he goes, and he got shot probably like 2 years prior in a cast in a raid in the Bronx. And, he was out riding his bike. This guy was like Superman, but he's just like, he goes, are you kidding me with all this fanfare? He's saying it in front of people like that don't know our humor. He goes, are you kidding me? And I look like I didn't see it coming. He goes, bro, you showed up for a raid, you left, and you left halfway through it. And I just went, oh my fucking God, that's hilarious. And so we're left, and people are like, like this, but just the shock value of humor is such an amazing healer, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
grateful for those guys between Schmidt, Daisy, Ennis. They love making jokes about it, and they're always there. Whatever, pick up the phone, Jerry Wachowski, all those guys. They're always still part. Maybe not all the time. We talk on social media, we do stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just a great feeling. Even just road troopers, new and old, some of the new sort guys always stay in contact. That's what gets you through, right?
Yeah.
That makes trauma okay. I mean, it's I'll be I'll deal with this. Hopefully, I can live a long age. It's going to be with you, but as
Yeah.
long as you don't let it define you or create because what it does, like PTSD, will always create chaos. If you can hold that chaos off by doing something, keeping your mind active or something, more power to you. Like I said, being alive is so much better than the old. Right? I'm grateful every day. I mean, not to take away from poor Brink, and like I said, just the pain that the family has to suffer because of a loss.
Yeah.
For me, it's being alive. I can, my son was 2 years old. He turned 2 years old 4 days before I was shot. He came in to see me and he's sitting on my bed and he sees all the wires and he's like, he's just learning how to talk. He's just like, "Are you going to die, daddy?" And I was like, "That's when it hit you."
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, I'm in the wrong field. I need to go raise alpacas or hopefully, hook up with the Dixon Mafia down here and make some moonshine and be a millionaire because, my kid's 2 years old and he sees that, and I was gone
Yeah.
for 21 days, and it's just like,
Yeah.
because, I want to advance my careers. I want to join the SWAT team. I wanted to be XYZ. And it does. And I'm a constant reminder of what happens when the day goes wrong,
Yep.
like I said, gratefully, it's not death. It's an
Yeah.
injury, permanent, but it's not
And
death.
you know what? You're here to talk about it. And if you can help one person by listening to your story, I'm
Fuck yeah.
so remarkably grateful for that. Um, you your injury is 2008. You become a judge 2018. That's 10 years. What what drove you to want to be a judge? What the fuck was that about?
Yeah. So, like, in the time between, like I said, I was healing. I had the surgeries. I had to do this therapy. I had to heal. And a lot of times you have to take a step back because you go from riding in helicopters, kicking in doors to 4 in the morning, working with troopers, doing all this training. And now it's, you're like, right? You wake up and it's like you wake up, you do a little workout. It's like 8:30, and you're like, you go get your coffee at Stewart's, and then you're just like, it's crickets, and that is the worst thing because you're like, fuck. And I'm not, and not to take away from the guys because, like I told you, I don't want cops going, oh fuck, here's Rich. Wow, wow, Rich. I can't believe Rich got shot. He was always fit. He was always big and strong and crazy. If he can get shot, I never want a cop to go out and be like, holy shit, I might end up like Rich, because you don't want that. You want them to go out, do their job, be disciplined, fight the good fight if they have to,
Yeah.
because I never want that to happen again to anybody because it shouldn't. But for you, when you retire and you got an injury, it's like cricket. So I mean, I was lucky enough, I would go and help Maris Soccer D1 program out, training kids, training goalies. I was a goalie. I do stuff. So now I was sitting at home and I get a phone call from the town supervisor. He goes, "Hey, are you interested in being a judge?" I was like, "Oh, Jesus. I never thought about it, So I guess, and so I did a little campaigning, made some flyers. I get elected. You go to judge school for like 2 weeks. And it's just elected. You don't need a law degree, and it's just like basically crash course in brain surgery. But I have to say that was one of the best learning experiences in my life because it takes your law enforcement career. I mean, you go from you know you go from like 4:30 in the morning, what the fuck on the ground, state police, to sir, can you please tell me about why you want to sue your landlord, right? Or unfortunately you're doing 90 and 30. I'm going to give you a parking ticket. Please don't speak again. So but that's
Yeah.
our justice system, right? I only saw the law enforcement side. So I was able to go in, do criminal, traffic, and of course civil. And it really opened my eyes. I thought it was the greatest adventure. I try to do the best I can. You learn from people, and it was fun. So I got to do that and some great cases. And I'll tell you, I got called out, if not more, being a judge than I did being on a SWAT team because unfortunately finding a good judge late at night, as you know, is like
Yeah.
impossible, right?
Yeah.
Some of these judges, they love their,
Yeah.
they love their whiskey, they love everything else, and some of them don't have cell phones. Some of these guys have been judges 50 years, they don't turn their cell phone on or they don't understand the power bar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I became it, I was just like, I remember first day I'm sworn in, it's like, hey, Rich, such and such from such and such department. We need a judge. People weren't showing up. And I was like, all right, so me being a new guy, I'll do the arraignment, coming out late at morning. And the best part about that, funny part like that, especially summertime, I get woken up at 2 in the morning, throwing a polo shirt. I got soccer shorts on and my soccer flip flops. Like I'm walking in with all my tattoos on the leg. And the trooper's like, yeah, this is a judge. Just stand up. And a guy with the handcuffs by his neck going, this is the fucking judge, right? Like the poor guy's like, oh, I'm done. I'm done. They got
Yeah.
this freak as a judge. And so you do the arraignments and you learn, and then you had to go through the whole bail reform. We had to let people,
Yeah.
and that became issues, and it was a great learning experience, and
Did you
I
did you
like.
think you did you think it made you understand judges more, or do you think it made you judge judges more, if that makes any sense?
It does a little bit of both because I saw how, it's like anything. I was grateful enough. I mean, talk about two power plays of jobs I've had.
Yeah,
It went from being uh, a full-time SWAT team guy to a judge, power. But I was always humble enough to like be like, okay, I get you. As much as
yeah,
I can be that tough guy one on one. I'll still make the jokes. I'll still do that because I'm not going to take it's a job I did. It's not like I'm going to, there's some guys that leave the job and they can't leave it behind, right? They need that identity with the shield and a gun to be who they are. And they can't be like that. I'm first and foremost a soccer hooligan to the day I die. So when I leave the
yeah,
job, I'm like, hey, what are we doing? And, but in Judge, I saw both where, and I watch people, when it comes to court, it's the tickets now are ridiculous, some of the prices, and you're just like, I would try to make it fair, I'd be like, hey, we all been there. I try to be calm, cool, collective because you have to deal with it. But there's a lot of people out there that definitely have power trips on both
yeah,
fields,
yeah,
and as I don't explain it, but yeah, I mean, you're not going to change that consensus. I was a young judge. Most of my counterparts in Dutchess County were older when I first got on. They were great. I learned from everybody, and some of them would call me. I mean, the good thing about being a cop than a judge is like the drugs. Where I was in Milan, at Bard College, somebody's being arrested for ketamine. And then you have the lawyer going, ketamine, Your Honor. I'm like, cat tranquilizer. And they're just like, why are they taking that? I'm like, it's good vibes, man. I would say it right in court, and I would just say it. I'd be like, people would know. And I was like, I go, what are you going to do?
yeah.
Times are tough. I go, weed's expensive and Coke is outpriced. It's just, what are you going to do? So the
Dude, that's
people have to,
it's so awesome that you're like, you are you. Rich is rich, right? I don't even know you that well, but and I love the fact that it seems like no matter where you've been in your life, you've always tried to stay true to who you are. And I
yeah,
don't know
I mean,
if that's a God.
I think you have to. I mean, it's like even, you know, like I said, you leave the job like a regular shift, right? There's so many guys that are just like, if there's an incident, they got scanners at home, they got all this, that's any advice I could give is like, you need to separate yourself. Do your 12 hours, whether you're married or not, have that, do something else because it will consume you. And that's the problem because our warriors, not only in military, but the police, it's a lonely path for warriors when they retire. It is an extremely lonely path. I mean, you get to the point where, oh, I just did high speed stuff for almost 30 years. And now what am I going to do?
Yeah,
Right. I'm going to go. I mean, I never tinkered. I'm not going to make there's so many guys that do shit. They
yeah,
make incredible stuff like Innes makes these incredible plaques. He's so talented. All these people do this stuff and they're doing everything. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's just like,
yeah,
it consumes you, right? Because it's a lonely path because most officers see almost 800 traumatic events in their whole career.
yeah,
I mean, Christ, my one incident can last a lifetime. I could only, you're seeing car
yeah,
accidents, you're seeing, so everybody who does this job, whether you get into SWAT or not, it's working with the public. It takes a piece of your soul with you. So it's always good, which is great what you're doing. You're giving back, you're getting this out there so people can see it and hopefully bosses can see it and make better
yeah.
decisions, moving on.
You know, I'm truly thank you for saying that, by the way, because that's what my ultimate goal is. And I
Yeah.
don't know if I should say I'm sorry, but there's a part of me that feels like I should say sorry because it's been, going 18, 19 years and you always hear bits and pieces of the story, but like to actually hear the words coming out of your mouth, it just puts it in perspective. And I don't know, there's a part of me has a little bit of guilt by not, wanting to know the true story and almost feeling, I don't know how to describe it, but
Yeah,
it
I know.
just,
No, I got you. But the secondhand part is this too. I mean, I think if people can take, like you said, I'm alive and well. I got a
Yeah.
permanent middle finger. Life's golden. Right?
Yeah.
I don't give a sleeping 4 hours a day. I mean, I get it. No big deal. And you get enough sleep later in life. But it's it also is like not to have people dwell. They shouldn't really dwell on tragedy. It's
Yeah.
always it's it's unfortunately in our field you'll see it. How many funerals we went to? Like, look at right as soon as we were
Yeah.
just as we got out, Gleason got shot. Remember that? He barely,
Yep.
poor guy, barely had 4 months on the job, and he got killed. And it's like it's just tragedy. And then you go to these funerals, and you're just like, fuck. There's got. I know it's a shitty result of our job, but I mean, I also, like I said, I don't want guys second guessing what they're doing or thinking about
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm always fun. I mean, reach out anytime, and it's
Yeah.
great. And a quick story too to tell you about this, the guy who shot me. So after I was shot, Amanda Reef was shot up in Beach Group. She was shot 2 months, and she went to a domestic a guy like one of those Thompson guns. I'm not a gun expert. What does that shoot like a little slug, like black powder's gun?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So this guy shoots through the door, hits her in the shoulder. She goes down, and she's this tiny girl. She's on the ground. I mean, your body's going through shock. This guy comes out, backup showing up. He's not listening to commands. So she fires from the ground, right? Fires from the ground at the guy who just shot her, kills the guy. Boom. Great story, great ending. The guy who shot her was childhood friends with the guy who shot me.
Wow.
What the fuck are the odds of that?
That's
And
fucking
so
crazy.
so we find this out, and as soon as I was already shot. I remember Amanda got shot. I called her when she was up in Vermont. We were talking, and we still talk to this day. We laugh and we joke. But she told me that story, and then like they were childhood friends growing up. This guy watched this idiot steal the car. They were still friends to this day. This idiot shoots me. He's ultimately killed. This guy shoots a man. They're best friends. Is ultimately killed.
Wow.
Wait, is there a part B? There is. Part B is this. Years later, I get a messenger from Amanda. She goes, "Hey, Christmas time, we help out impoverished families. They request a toy. So my son took the card, and it has the person's name and the truck. Turns out to be the guy's sister who shot me. What are the odds?"
Wow.
So the guy's sister, the guy who shot me, his sister had a small child in a school system, and her son picked the name to buy a toy, help out this kid. It's the guy.
Oh, that is
I mean,
crazy.
if that ain't a fucking Squid Game Netflix movie, I don't know what is. Like the odds of us getting shot by
Yeah.
childhood, Amanda and I getting shot by childhood buddies. I just was like, this is beyond. This is, I mean, fuck Stranger Things. What the hell was that, right? How
That
do you
is
put
fucking,
how
that
do you
is
put
insane.
something on that? So I'm just like,
That's insane.
we still laugh about it too. And I mean, I know Amanda deals with her stuff too, but I think being her and I and helping each other, over the years, laughing and joking. I mean, I
Yeah.
know she's going to have PTSD too. And, we talk about it here and there. And it's just like each person has their own thing. But I think it's that relationships that we have. And I mean, as much as, you and I, we went to the academy together, we went our separate paths, we're in different troops.
Yep.
It's you move on with your life, and it's but we're always there. That's what I think makes that the brotherhood and sisterhood so strong. It's like no matter what, no matter how much time goes between, we can show up, laugh, and be like, I got you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I am so grateful. There's never a second guess. I mean, if I knew going into this job that I would barely have 8 years on it, and it would be over, and I'm dealing with a lifetime of this, lifetime of that, I'd do it in a fucking heartbeat. Like I said, to bring back Brink, I'd do it because
Yeah.
the friends you make, the relationships, it's truly is extraordinary. This relationship we have in a brotherhood. And it's not just this department. I mean, I come down here, second day down here, I stopped because I'm speeding, right? And the best thing, the guy comes up, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I just moved here. Here's my ID. And the guy looks at me, well, just want to say, Rich, he goes, you haven't lost driving like a state trooper. And he goes, you have yourself a, I was like, aces, aces,
That's
like
awesome.
aces. And all guys, I mean, anywhere from Louisiana, Mississippi. I mean, and these guys too, working their asses off for God. Like, I mean, I know we always used to bitch and moan about what we were making,
I know.
the poor money that these poor people putting their life on the line down here. That's why. I mean, I wish there should be should be a set standard, like 110,000 if you're a cop anywhere in America. Boom,
Yeah.
because you're going to
Hey,
deal with.
yeah. No, listen. So thank you for saying that, because that's another thing I wanted to bring up real quick that I kind of got brushed to the side as we were talking, as you were talking. Because first I want to say, holy shit, fucking thank you, because I didn't realize how much I needed this podcast in my life until we got a few minutes into it, and I realized this is far beyond what I could have ever expected. So first of all, thank you. Secondly, talk about, if you don't mind, the money portion of it, because you retired in 2008, where our salaries weren't that great, and now you have to live the rest of your life off of I'm assuming 50% salary, correct? Because
No,
it's
I got. You put in for a disability. I got approved for a disability pension, so that's
okay.
the 75. But yeah, I mean, everybody would
Either way,
say they gave me the rank of sergeant so that when I retired, I could earn to the next level, because the jump from trooper to sergeant's not that much, but from sergeant to lieutenant is, if I decide to do something. I still haven't found out what I want to do when I grow up. Jesus Christ! But I still haven't found. Look at it. I can't even sit on a chair. I haven't decided what I want to do. But so I get a trooper salary. The stripes were just for the sake of, thanks for coming out, right?
yeah, yeah,
Hopefully
yeah.
if you do something, it will be great. Sorry, just gonna let these crazy guys. Um, I just, it's money, right? You get the disability pension. It's
Yeah.
good, but you know what? I definitely need, like I said, I had 8 years in, I still got to pay for medical for my son and I, so that still comes out of my pension, because you got to have like certain amount. I just barely had enough to get the credits. I think they take academy time, but it's like, phew, I'd like to
Yeah.
do something because I'm bored. I am so bored. I mean, I like the judge. Don't get me wrong. Judge was nice, but it doesn't pay much at all. It's like a town judge.
Yeah.
It's peanuts, and you're doing a lot of work, especially during COVID. No one wanted to come out, so I'm
Yeah.
doing felony arraignments for murder and stuff. And I was like, hey, where's? And of course, I got the old state, not the state, but New York State. Oh, don't worry, just keep track of this. We'll take care of you.
Yeah. Right.
Right? I stopped being a judge I stopped being a judge in 2022. I go, where is that check, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Exactly.
is that check? And it's like,
Yeah.
you're just like, okay, that's not coming, and all this other stuff. And you're just like, man, what am I going to do? So I do look to do some stuff,
Yeah.
like, uh, maybe fitness and do stuff. I remember, like, in between, before I moved down here, I did some fitness training,
Yeah.
private stuff, but you're not being rich off of it. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, we don't even have the lottery in Alabama. So I got to go to Florida. I drive to Pensacola. I've reached that point in my life where I get my coffee and scratch offs, and I'm like, come on, this is the day. So, but,
Well, yeah. So once again, thank you. Anything lastly that you want to tell anybody that may be watching this, my viewers, the supporters here? Any last words?
yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want people to say like I'm so down on being a cop. Being a cop's one of the greatest things you could possibly be. You give back to your community, and for the people out there that see what goes on in the world, it's not the dudes in the trenches. It's definitely not. It's the calls from the sergeants and the bosses above that are making it difficult for the police to bring back that community policing and do what's right. They all, is there cops out there that do shitty shit? Yeah, but that's on every job. But it's
Yeah.
a very minute, because guys put anybody in my book who gets up, puts on a badge or a shield and a gun and wants to get back to the community. Shit. I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's a great feeling. And they do make a difference. I mean, those people in my life that I got to work, they made a difference in my life. Like I said, I always say that when I speak, I have to live 1,000 years to thank everybody for what they did, especially for me
Yeah.
and my family when I was shot. And I will always speak highly of the brotherhood and policing and sisterhood, because there is no better thing. And just to, do your job, don't be a hero, and get out after 25 years. And
Yeah.
then, and if anybody's doing anything, let's make moonshine. Let's do something. Raise alpacas. I'm in. I need something to do. So,
Good.
but
All right. Well, I could tell you this much. This isn't just because we're doing this episode. I would truly like to stay in touch with you, even if it's just texting
you
or whatever.
always,
Like,
brother.
I feel.
I'm gonna be up because, like I said, a shout out to my pops who had valve surgery the other day. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be up like February 3rd. I'll be back. I'm gonna be in Fishkill, like New York. So I mean, I don't know. I'll be up there for a bit, for probably like for the month, just helping
Yeah.
out around. And so let's try to get together and connect and stuff
Yes.
and do whatever.
Fucking love it. Thank you so much, Rich. I deeply
Get
appreciate
I
it.
want I got what's the NOFC t-shirts look like? Are they good, or are we get
Say less. Say less. One is heading your way, my friend.
if we can superimpose a middle finger, I'm all for it. I don't even need proceeds, bro. I don't even need proceeds from that shit. I'll just have my thing.
I have a lot of shit going through my mind. I got you. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, buddy.
All right.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay on.